Well, hello. For this short video today, I want to kind of call your attention to one particular word that we've all heard before when you're talking about leading teams in a rapidly changing, challenging environment. And it's this word integrity. It's actually one of the core values for my coaching business. Most of us think we know what integrity means, but I want to call your attention to a couple of things that surround integrity and are about integrity that sometimes people don't think. Most people, if I were to ask them, what does integrity mean to you? They'll say, doing what you say you'll do. You know what? That's part of it. No two ways about it. And that's kind of a key part when you look at the core value for my coaching business, in my mind. It's like, you know what? I'll do what I say I'll do. And if I screw it up or I miss it for whatever reason, I'll make it right, kind of thing. But what I want you to understand, particularly, it can be a challenge when you're talking about a rapidly changing environment, that integrity can mean much more. Realize that integrity doesn't deal with necessarily what you do. What you do is simply a symptom of whether integrity is there or not. It's the integrity that drives that. Integrity is not external. Integrity is internal. It's in the heart of who you are. It's a central piece of who you are. And the point that I just want to make to you is this one example. When you talk about integrity, there's a lot of forces, particularly when you're in a rapidly changing environment, that can try to inhibit integrity. Let me give you an example that is kind of an interesting picture of this. If I had a little piece of steel right here, and I started putting pressure on it may not bend or fold immediately, but over time, it will start to get easier, and it'll bend more until at some point it'll break. The term that is related to that is when you broke down the integrity of the steel. The integrity is something very internal to you. Yes, it is displayed often in doing what you say you do. But the point I want to make to you is, just like this steel example, there's a lot of external factors, particularly that can come on the stage in a rapidly changing environment, that can inhibit or affect or reduce or put pressure on your integrity. Give you one quick picture that does come from aviation. There was a light twin. This was probably 3 decades ago. I remember reading the story of, I think it was Mission Aviation Fellowship. It was a mission aviation branch in a foreign country, okay? And what happened was the pilot took off in a twin-engine airplane. This aviation group helped to supply and support missionaries throughout the region. And it was a light twin airplane, and they took off. And for some reason, fairly soon after takeoff, the right engine caught fire. Well, the pilot came back around, and he was trying to come back into land. But what amazingly happened was that I think it was about 300 to 400 feet on final approach, the wing spar on the right side, I think it was, just gave up the ghost and snapped. And the wing folded up like this, and the airplane just tumbled and crashed, and the pilot was killed. What happened was the fire had weakened the spar of the wing, so that at that particular point, the integrity was overcome. The integrity of the metal in the wing was overcome, and the wing snapped. Bottom line is, when you're talking about your integrity in your team, or within you as a leader, or within your organization or your operation, that integrity, as it's displayed, there will be a lot of external factors that are put on that. How are you going to make it so that you don't have to let that negatively impact what you're doing or the results of it? It is interesting that when you talk to soldiers that have been in combat in wartime, one of the things that commanders will look at and first sergeants will look at is their troops that report to them. Are there times when you see evidence that the stress of the battle, the stress of the situation they're in, is starting to weigh on their integrity and commitment to the mission? And there's a time in the Band of Brothers series from years ago, I loved how they said it at this one point. It was exactly true. It said, sometimes just getting somebody off the front line for a couple hours renewed the integrity, because it removed the stresses that would have a negative impact on their integrity being applied. And you know what? Sometimes as leaders, when you're in a rapidly changing environment, we need to think about that. In what ways are you, as the leader, impacting their integrity? If my whole thing is, I'm just going to tell you what to do and you just shut up and listen to me, that's kind of stupid. And I'm obviously being a little bit funny with that. But if that's my approach, they're going to go back to their workspace. They're going to go back to where they're putting forth the effort. And in their mind, there's going to be, this is stupid. He wouldn't even listen to me, but this is what they say they want to do. Guess what? In a very insidious way, that's putting stress on their integrity. And the bottom line is, when you put that kind of stress, whether it's the leader, whether it's external circumstances, whether it's clients, whether it's the operation itself somehow with factors that you didn't predict, all of those can work on breaking and overcoming the integrity of your team. And again, a lot of times when that does overcome it, it's not exactly the team's fault. In some cases it is. And there does come a time when the leader's got to make a choice. But that has to be done at the right time. I'll give you one quick example about this. At the aviation operation where I work, we had a part-time instructor that was coming in. And he went through the initial training, and he came up on his check ride, and he wasn't quite ready for it. Because when you go to become an instructor, you have to go through the entire initial training, okay, from an experiential standpoint before you start kind of working with clients. And it came up to the point where he kind of knew who I was, and he came up to me and said, you mind if I talk with you for a second? I said, no, please. We sat down and talked, and he talked about some of the stresses that he felt and all this sort of stuff. And one of the things that was interesting is he mentioned some challenges that happened in briefings and how he didn't feel prepared going into the sim sessions and stuff. One of the things that I told him is I said, well, listen, wasn't a witness to anything. I said, if what you're telling me is true, and to the extent that it's true, you're right, that's not professional. But I said, I'm not a witness to anything of that. And I said, but I will offer this to you as guidance. And he said, what's that? I said, the bottom line is that, and I said, I don't know where this decision is, but I said, there does come a time when a manager or the leader has to kind of make the call and draw the line. And I said, I don't know how close it is to that or not right now. I have not been a part of this in any way, shape, or form. But I said, but the fact that you're still here, you got an opportunity to change some of that. And what I coached him through a little bit was ways to maybe look at changing that integrity piece within him, even though maybe some of the experiences that he had were not perfect. But the bottom line is, the way you lead people, are you leading them in such a way that you're removing your impact in their integrity? Now, I will say this, that much of this was that instructor's fault, and he was eventually let go, okay, because he wasn't going to get there. And a lot of it, I think, is he just didn't have the confidence to be able to do it, and that was getting in his way. There is a time when you got to kind of draw the line there. But up until that point, as the leader, are you putting stress on the integrity of the team or on this person? Are you getting in the way? Or are you not? Are you helping them? Again, doesn't mean you just got to capitulate and that you can't make the call when it's necessary. But are you getting in the way? So this aspect of integrity has a little bit more to it picture-wise than sometimes people think. And I offer you that for this week. In what ways are you and maybe your cohorts getting in each other's way relative to the integrity? Are you supporting each other's integrity? Are you able to maximize that? Do you see when it's becoming stressful and it's putting pressure on the integrity? Can you take the pressure off sometimes before the metal breaks? Because that will be beneficial for the team. So I leave that with you for this week, just as something to think about.